Hi, welcome back to another video, and in this video I want to cover something more about the tools that I got in front of me. These are the circular saws, track saws, plunge saws from Festool. It will apply to different brands as well, but these hold some other features that other ones won't have. So let's jump into the video, give you a good overview of these tools and which is the best for you. So we're gonna start with the circular saws. So let's put away the plunge saws. These are quite interesting and you don't see them that much in videos. So I want to cover the features that these two holds, and then we're going to go over to the plunge saws. All right, in front of me I got the big HK circular saw and the smaller one. This is a always corded, powered by cord, and this is a battery powered saw. This one has one battery, so if you compare this to the TS55, which is the plunge saw from Festool, that holds two batteries. So these are circular saws. They are quite different than plunge saws, but that doesn't mean that this isn't a plunge saw. As you can see, it stands like this, and it is able to go on a track. So both saws can go on a track. Also for this particular saw, and it fits on other saws as well, which I will mention later in this video, you can use this track, and that is quite handy because then you can turn your circular saw in a miter saw, or when you're gonna do roofing, carpentry work, then this is a really great tool. So why should you look to one of these or a plunge saw? It is a lot of that is preference, because when you are done with cutting and you hold your saw like that, then you have to set it down like this. With a plunge saw, you can set it flat on the base. So if you compare that to this, then it's flat. That is a really big difference for me. This feels so convenient and safe, although these have a safeguard on the blade as well. Now, especially this one, the bigger, let's start with this one, is a really strong machine. But it looks beefy and chunky. You can do really accurate cuts with this as well. You can put on a fine blade or a cement panel blade, and you can set your depth, and you can use your track, and then you're able to do really clean cuts over a longer length. So you can cut up to 3 meters long, really nice fine cutting strips, cross cut, rib cuts. So that is possible with this saw. There is one thing that you can do with this saw, and that is cutting 60 degree under an angle of 60 degree, which is not possible with this one. So 60 degrees is doable with this big boy, and that is really handy when you're gonna do roofing work or carpentry work where you have to join beams together or anything like that. So that is a major difference with this one. Now, in order to use this as a normal circular saw, you just put it down, and then it clips on the back side of this clip, and then you can use it as a normal circular saw. So you can cut under an angle. You can also setting your depth with this green knob on the back side, and then you can do plunge cuts. So basically it is a plunge saw as well. The only thing what you need to do then is, before you're gonna cut, you put backwards your safety guard, and now you can do your plunge cuts. Remember, if you're gonna do this, that applies to all the saws, you have to be on full speed before you're gonna put your blade in your work material, because then it won't get stuck. Also, I really recommend using a track as much as possible. And why is that? If you don't have a track, and if you're gonna do a plunge cut like this, or you're gonna move your saw 1 mil to the left or right, then the teeth of this blade can get stuck in here, and then you get a really awkward smack from your saw. So if you are able to use a track, I always recommend use a track that prevents it from moving it like so. So this is a circular saw, a really big saw. I use this for really big slabs and all that, so I can cut them in dimensions and handle better in my shop with the smaller saws, bandsaw, planer. So a circular saw. If you're doing a lot of carpentry work, this is definitely one of these saws that is really handy. But if you don't have any saw and you prefer a circular saw, I would suggest depending on your work, if you're going to do really heavy wet oak and all that, then this, you need that power. But if you're going to do smaller stuff, then this is a really handy saw. This is a super versatile cross-cutting circular plunge saw. It applies also on here. You can use it as a plunge saw as well, so you can do your plunge cuts. Plunge cutting is not a thing that we do quite often. At least I am not doing that quite often. Sometimes I'm doing that. Most of the times I will start cutting before my blade hits the material. So also with a plunge saw, I bring my blade up to full speed and then I do my cut. So I'm not doing a plunge cut with my plunge saws. And that is basically, you can do basically the same things with this saw. There is one down part to this particular saw. It has one battery, and that means it is less powerful than the TS55. I'm really noticing with big lumber, you missing some power. It does work. It does work fine with smaller beams and all that, and cross-cut smaller boards, so up to 30 mil or so. It works perfectly fine, but it is less strong than the TS55. Now, this particular saw is able to match with this particular fence, and it looks quite funny, but basically what it is a fence with a pivot point and an adjustable knob, and that knob you can setting your angle to 60 to 60 degree, both sides. That means if you put this blade to 45 degree and you're doing a cut under 60 degree, you can cut really steep angles, and that is super unique. Also, it will stay, because there's a hook here, it will stay on your saw, so you can bring it on towards your workpiece and then you can do your cut, and then it will automatically go back. So if you set this knob to 0 degrees, then you have a miter saw. It is not the same as a miter saw, but you can do 90-degree cuts really accurate and fast, because this is super mobile. So you can bring it out, you can cut your boards to the right length or anything like that, and that is really cool. So if you are looking for a circular saw, this is number one. Depending if you're going to do only rough big stuff, this is number one. If you're noticing that you're missing some power, missing some cutting depth, then going to the bigger boy, because you can cut 55 millimeters with this one and 85 millimeters with this one, and that is a major difference. So those are the circular saws from Festool, basically also plunge saws, because you can do plunge cut with these as well, as I mentioned. Now let's jump into the plunge, aka track saw. All right, let's jump into these and let's go over all of these one by one. All right, what do we got here? We got the latest version, the TSV60. Then you got the TS60, TS55, and we got a TS75. Now let's start with my most frequently used tools, and that is this saw. This saw is really my workhorse in my shop. I do all of my cutting that needs to be done accurately with this particular one, with a real square that I got in the back here. This and a parallel guide. If you watch my videos, you are seeing that in all of my videos. I really like that system because I don't have a really big shop, so I don't have a really expensive table saw, which is really handy when you want to do accurate repeat cuts. So repeat stop system on a real square, parallel guides with this saw, really my recommendation, because I cut boards over 2.60 meters long, parallel, even on the millimeter, straight on with this one. So this is a battery powered track saw. It does have a lot of strength in it, and it is super accurate. You can cut up to 47 degrees in an angle, and you can cut -1 to this one. So all your 45-degree angles is super easy with this one. I got a little blade here, guard, that prevents the dust from coming out here. So you have a really good dust collection. And yeah, this is, I would say, the #1 saw in the range of Festool for me, what I'm doing. Now, I saw some videos on YouTube, and I don't share that opinion. This is a tool that I highly recommend when you're starting out. Not particular Festool. Yes, Festool is really great, but if you don't have the budget, a track saw will improve your work so much. When you got a real square and a parallel guide, it will improve your work so much. I really recommend, if you're starting out, or if you're on a budget and if you don't have an expensive table saw, please look at that system, because you can buy a hinge system from Benchworks UK, for example. You put on your workbench. You have a really accurate cutting system combined with this one. Now, what are the other options that I got over here? Let's look at this one. This is the TSV60. I did a full video on this one, so I will put a link in the description below about this one. Basically, these two are exactly the same. Those are the latest version from Festool about these saws. This is without a scoring blade on the front, and this is with a scoring blade on the front. Now, if you are a person that are doing a lot of veneer wood, plywood, kitchen build, fitting furniture, and you don't have an expensive table saw, this is a really great tool. Why? Because you can achieve on two sides a clean cut, the bottom and the top, and that has to do with this scoring blade on the front. There's a diamond cutter blade, V-shaped, on the front, that will pre-cut your surface, and then your main blade will follow. Now that will give you a really clean cut. So if you are starting out and you know you're gonna do lots of plywood, lots of veneer wood, this is a really great tool. And yes, you can achieve clean cuts with other methods as well. I'm not saying you need only this one, but if you want to save time and if you're going to invest, this is a really great tool. Now, basically, these two are the same if you're looking to the cutting depth. These can cut a little bit deeper than this one, because these can cut 60 millimeters. So a little bit of more cutting depth, a little bit of more power. And there's one down part for me. These are only corded, so you don't have these on battery, which I'm super a fan of with this one. It feels more compact, it feels more flexible, because you only have your dust collection hose. It does make a difference for me. So if you are buying a track saw, a plunge saw, and you want to have the most versatile one, have all the options, then this is a really handy one, because basically this one is this one with the extra front part. But if you're not going to do a lot of clean cuts, fitting furniture, veneer wood, then you don't need this. And then this is a really great tool, because you have that extra depth, you have that strength, but you don't have it battery powered. All right, let's jump into the last one, and that is basically the bigger brother from this one. This is the TS75, and I bought this one only for really deep clean cuts. I am not using it that often, only when my material is really thick. I prefer this one over this one, because it is lighter, it feels more compact. So I highly recommend this one, only for people that are missing that extra cutting depth with this one. Now I want to cover some features on these saws. Festool implemented a kickback system. That means that normally, if you have a good look here, this should be a riving knife. And that riving knife is now a sensor. So when you're gonna cut, it measures the surface. Let me just bring this down. So normally this is a riving knife. Now this is a sensor. So it measures the surface when you're gonna cut. And when this will go up, then your blade will stop and the kickback system kicks in. And that is a really safe option. Sometimes when your surface is not even and you can cut strips that are glued on a panel or anything like that, then you don't want to have this option. So your kickback will be activated and you got a really awkward situation. So what you do then, you just turn it off, which is possible before you're gonna cut. And then you can do your cuts without the kickback option. So I already mentioned this HK track saw, circular saw. But there is another thing that you can do. You can take off this fence And you can use your TS60 with this same track. So you can use this track exactly on the same way, but there is one thing that you need to keep in mind, which I will show you right now. So I already showed you this track, which is a really cool track. You can cut 60 degrees both ways and 90 degrees with this pivot point and this angle stop. So it is not only capable with the HK version. So this can go on this track, but the TS version, so in this case I'm using the TS60, is also capable to go on this track. So if you like plunge saws, this kind of saws over the circular saw, then you can use this track as well, which is a really cool bonus feature. And the only difference here is when you're gonna start cutting, you need to bring your blade down and it doesn't have any safeguard, and then you have a running blade before you're gonna hit the edge. It does look a little bit different with the other saw. So if we look to this one, then we bring it towards the edge and I don't have to do anything. And as you can see, the closer you get towards your edge, the safeguard will be removed, and as soon as you hit your edge, it will be fully exposed. You can do the same thing, but remember, you want to be on full speed before you're gonna hit your material. So with the track saw, you have to bring it down, bring it on full speed and then hit it. And that time your blade is more exposed. It's just a little bit though, but it's a thing that you need to keep in mind. But what is really cool, that you can use this track on that saw. So if you are more interested in a track saw like this, plunge saw, then you're still able to use this track. So that is a really cool bonus. All right, a ton of saws, lots of information, but I hope this short video helps you to get a better understanding about these saws, which is the best for you and which holds some features that the other one won't have. And if you got any questions, if I forgot something, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you in my next video.